and I was in pain every single day. And I was looking for ways to end my life, looking on the internet for ways to end my life. And every time I kept exploring suicide, the first thought was like, my mom. What would my mom have to deal with? The devastation if I took my life. And I love my mom. I didn't want to do that to her. So it was a vicious cycle. And I knew I wasn't going to take my life, but I had to do something.
Hello everyone, David the Video Ninja here. Today we have Ben Azadi. He's the founder of Keto Camp, and there is an amazing story behind him.
David, what's up, brother?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
Doing good. Just spoke a couple of hours ago here at Keto Orlando. It was awesome. If you've ever been affected by cancer or heart disease, I want you to stand up right now.
How long have you been in this keto world? Like, how did you get started? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Keto World 2013, but prior to that, in 2008, when I was 24 years old, I weighed 250 pounds, so I was physically obese. I had back pain, knee pain, inflammation all over my body, but also mentally obese. You know, I was suicidal, I was depressed, I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was in pain every single day, and I was looking for ways to end my life. Looking on the internet for ways to end my life. And every time I kept exploring suicide, the first thought was like, my mom. What would my mom have to deal with? The devastation if I took my life. And I love my mom. I didn't want to do that to her. So it was a vicious cycle. And I knew I wasn't going to take my life, but I had to do something. So I started to read books, Bob Proctor, Dr. Wayne Dyer, all these authors. And the books helped me take responsibility, dude. And I believe that's the number one thing we all need to do is take responsibility for our circumstances. And the second that I did that, David, my life changed, because it's impossible to be angry, bitter, resentful, and responsible at the same time.
Of course.
So
would you say that there was one thing that happened that made you have to like look for something else? Where I've heard that your dad was a victim of what was it again? Diabetes.
Yeah.
Was that one of the things that ignited this whole journey?
It wasn't what ignited it, but it's what lit the real fire, right? So it was hitting rock bottom. And I think rock bottom could be a blessing, because if you could get out of that, it's like the opposite of that direction. There's so much potential there, as long as you can get out of that.
Of course.
So for me, it was rock bottom and then taking ownership. And when I took ownership, I immediately became the victor, stopped being the victim, and everything changed for me. I lost 80 pounds in 80 pounds in 9 months, 34% body fat down to 6% body fat, completely changed my physical health. And also the most important thing, over the physical six-pack was the mental six-pack, what it did for my mental health. So that was 14 years ago. That's what got me started in the health space.
That is amazing. I remember you talking previously about the mental health and how important it is. If you want to change your life, you got to change your mind before anything. I think that is also one of the biggest patterns that I see repeating between the people that I just keep hanging around and that have transformed their lives. They just keep telling me this thing of like, you change your mind, you change your reality. So what is one thing that you could tell people on how to get started on this journey of transforming their life? A lot of people, they're like, yeah, everyone says that, but how do I actually, start learning about transforming that mentality?
You just said it. You got to control your thoughts. Change your thoughts, change your life. I was just sharing on stage that the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of damn thoughts. And it's usually the same thoughts, and it's usually negative thoughts. So if you could change that, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you are, and what you are those 60,000 thoughts. But then let's ask the question, okay, it's not as easy as just changing your thoughts, because you could be like, I want to change my thought. It's your environment that determines the thoughts that you think. So as hard as it is, you got to cut people out of your life who don't serve your future self. Whether it's a healthier you, a more financial, successfully you, or whatever version of yourself you want to recreate. There's people in your life who don't support that. Got to cut them out or communicate with them, because those relationships and what you watch on TV and the books you read or don't read, all that determines those thoughts. So if you change your environment, it's easier to change your thoughts. And I shared on stage that experiment with the fleas in the jar, right? It's like their environment, they removed the jar from those fleas and they still flew around that same pattern because their environment molded them. And they had kids or offspring, and their offspring flew in that pattern. Isn't that insane?
That is impressive.
That's what happens with your environment. It molds you.
actually can relate to that, very personal, because like for the past few years, I've been trying to like, take off with my agency and everything. And it's always been like, this journey where it's pretty steady. But I've been doing it for over 10 years now. I'm like, all right, I've been doing it for quite a longer time than, many of my other friends, and they're crushing it. What am I doing wrong? I started this year working heavily on mentality, reading books on it. One that really helped me out a lot was Think and Grow Rich, just following on the examples that they give. And I can say that, with that shift that I went through, it has made me get to know like the most cool people I've ever met, get to learn from, the best people. Just work has been amazing. The company has been thriving like in no other time. And I can say that that is, if I could point it to one thing, it would be like the mental shift that I went through. So, I'm highly supportive of like what you're saying right there. I really like to talk about the intermittent fasting. That is a subject that I got introduced to a while ago. Because of like fitness, I wanted to like shred down, burn fat, but I discovered that there are a lot more things to it than than just like looking fit and staying shredded. One of the best benefits, like I remember you saying the water fasting, how by doing this once a year or twice a year, you're cutting down the chance of cancer by like 95%.
Yeah.
Could you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah. Fasting is one of the best ways to prevent disease, to burn fat, to get ripped, all the things you mentioned.
What is it doing when you're fasting?
Well, you're activating this innate intelligence. So the number one priority for the human body is survival. The body wants to survive. It will do anything it can do to survive. Okay. So imagine taking food away from your body. Oh, the innate intelligence wants to survive. So it looks for cells inside of your body that are inflamed. So they're called senescent cells. So some scientists call them zombie cells because they're cells that are just hanging out in your body but not functioning. And when you fast, your innate intelligence says, okay, we need energy from somewhere. Let's look for zombie cells. Let's look for senescent cells. And it starts trying to repair it. And if it determines it can't repair a cell, it gets rid of it. And then it produces a stem cell. In stem cell therapy, people pay thousands of dollars per month. You get it for free with fasting.
Oh, wow.
So the thing that you're doing is fasting is a stress, but it's a positive stress because it forces your body to adapt and get rid of bad cells. And you prevent cancer that way. You activate a process called autophagy, which is self-eating. That's the whole senescent cell thing. And all that happens when you just don't eat food.
Okay. And how often do you practice this yourself?
I do daily intermittent fasting.
Daily?
Yeah. So, most days I'll fast for 16, 18 hours. Sometimes I'll do 24 hours. Sometimes I did a 5-day water fast where I just had water for 5 days.
Wow. How did you feel during that process? Were you craving food all the time?
I wasn't so much hungry, but my energy levels, kind of fluctuated throughout. I was like very much in my head. I didn't want to like speak to people. So I was kind of like introverted. But man, after I broke that fast, I felt incredible. It was like a great healing
Definitely got to try it. I remember that at the beginning of this month, I did try fasting because, I've been working with Ben for a while, learned everything that he's teaching. And I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. There's a lot of benefits to it. Let me give it a try. I tried it. The first day I went for 16 hours without eating. And, once I broke my fast, started eating, I got the worst headache. And I spoke to Ben about it. Apparently this is a normal thing that happens. What is that called again?
Well, you lost electrolytes. So it was a salt deficiency, electrolyte deficiency, but your body was just adapting, still adapting and learning.
Let's say that might have happened also because I went into, from like eating maybe 6 times a day to like, cutting this my food window for like 16 hours.
Yeah.
What is the proper way to, let's say, get to that level?
Yeah, you went a little bit too fast. So you want to think of fasting as a muscle, right? If you want to build your bicep muscle, you don't just go to the gym day one and do 1,000 curls, right? That's too much. If you want to run a marathon, you train for it, right? Same thing with if you want to do a 24-hour fast, you train for it. So the right way to do it is to first eliminate snacking. So if you are eating 6 times a day, let's go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 3 meals a day, no snacks in between for a few days.
Okay.
Once you do that, then you can start building your way up. So a 12-hour fast is very easy to do because a lot of people don't think about it, but when you're sleeping, you're fasting, and that could be your fasting window. So when let's say you eat 7 p.m., dinner's done by 7 p.m., you finish your last bite of food, go to bed at night, wait until 7 a.m. to eat your first bite of food, that's 12 hours of fasting. Once that feels good, Then you could take that 7 a.m. breakfast and bump that to 8 a.m. That's 13 hours, and just keep doing that until you eventually get 16, 18 hours fasted.
And there is a point in which the body gets into the state of, what is it? Is it ketosis?
Ketosis. That makes a big difference.
After how long does your body get into this?
7 days on average, right?
Okay.
So as long as you're lowering your carbohydrates low enough during your eating window.
Okay. But do you have to wait certain hours until your body starts getting into this mode? Let's say, for example, like you're not actually fasting unless you do 14 or 16 hours. Is that how it works? Is it something that begins to happen like after a certain mark?
Well, the autophagy part where the cells start to repair itself, that happens towards the 16, 18 hour mark of a fast.
Okay.
So if you're just doing 12 and 14, you're not getting so much that benefit, but you're getting other benefits. You're still lowering insulin, so you're able to burn more fat. You're still able to do other things like fix your gut. So you get other benefits, but if you really want to maximize your benefits and get all the things I'm speaking about, you want to do variations of fasting. 18 hours one day, 24 hours 1 week, 5-day fast, once a year. It's the variation that really maximizes those results.
Okay.
But a lot of people think, fasting is about cutting calories. It's not about eating less. It's about eating less often, right? We're not talking about cutting calories. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about having an eating window where you have your meals, you have your calories that you need, and then a fasting window outside of that.
Okay. And as you've said, the best way to also eat or properly do this fasting is also combining it with a keto diet.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit of for those people that don't know what a keto diet is, what does it consist of?
You increase your healthy fat, you increase your protein, and you lower your carbs, right? The average American is eating 300 to 400 grams of carbs per day. You're never going to get into ketosis with that many carbs, and you're going to be hungry all day, you're going to be snacking all day and grazing, you're going to have energy levels that fluctuate. So in order to get into ketosis, which is just a metabolic process that we've done for the history of humankind, you got to drop your carbohydrates under 50 total grams per day.
Oh, wow.
But it's not so bad as long as you're increasing your healthy fat and protein.
Okay.
It's satiating. So as long as you do that and go slowly into that, and then pair that with intermittent fasting, man, that's a 1-2 punch for anti-aging, burning fat, feeling like a freaking rock star.
Well, I think that was a really good description of in a few words what a keto diet is. If you guys want to learn more, where can they learn more about what you do?
benazadi.com, which is my website. I have my YouTube channel, my podcast. We have an award-winning podcast. We won Podcast of the Year this year.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Keto Podcast of the Year, so it's called Keto Camp Podcast. But benazadi.com has all of that information.
Okay, so that's where we can find you and everywhere.
Everywhere.
Awesome.
You can find my TikTok channel, Instagram channel, yeah.
Well, Ben, it was a pleasure having you today. Thank you very much for your time. I highly appreciate it.
I appreciate you, David.
Hope you guys also learned something new today. This was David the Video Ninja, here with another amazing entrepreneur.
And I beat him 21-3 today in basketball.
Come on, man, that is just between us.
It's boring, as you guys can see. They beat us. I don't know, we just let them win. But what was the score point?
21-3.
21-3, that is crazy. We did 21, they did 3.
It feels good to be a winner. It feels good to have beaten David and Jonathan 21-3. That means we scored 21 points, they only scored 3. Not 5, not 7, not 10, 3. That's like a couple of shots, so that's what happens when you play against the GOAT.
Not just the keto GOAT, but also the basketball GOAT.
Keto and basketball.